Good evening, everybody. Thanks to Dr. Bhaskar Vyas and Dr. Rajniben Vyas for inviting me to speak on this forum. I would be talking about emotional intelligence for combating pandemic COVID-19 stress. At the outset, let me first affirm my faith in emotional intelligence. It is a strong weapon, as I see, to fight the coronavirus. If it is possible to use this treasure that all of us possess, we perhaps would not fall prey to coronavirus, and this is a very tall claim. Okay. Now I shall start with discussing emotion, and then I will talk about emotional intelligence, and then I will give small tidbits here and there to see how emotional intelligence can help us to fight this COVID-19. I'm going to start with an emotional event. The other day I was driving on a road and I saw a person coming from the opposite side with a great speed. I got a little nervous. I reduced my speed, but before I would know anything, he had dashed against my car, the left mud guard. I stopped, he also stopped. And then he came to my window and started shouting, "What kind of a poor driver are you? Ladies should sit in the kitchen and not drive. Are you on a spree to kill people? Why can't you see properly?" etc. He went on and on and on and kept shouting. This was an emotional situation. I also started shouting. I also started finding his faults and the way he was driving, etc. Till date, I wonder what happened to my emotional intelligence. Why did I have to fall prey to his emotions and not use my discretion? Now, these are the things that happen every day on the road. These are very often occasions. And one person speaking on top of the other and then not following the rituals of the road happens every day. But what is important is that there is a passage of emotion from one person to another person. And so much so, when the whole crowd gathers around you, even other people are getting the toxic effect of this kind of conversation. Now, this kind of emotional situation doesn't take place only in anger. It happens in love, in hatred, in jealousy, and the emotions keep passing from one person to another. I'll give you an example of two married couples fighting with each other. One shouts on the other shouts back. And then this fellow shouts harder, and the other fellow shouts harder still. And the situation escalates, and a real kind of war takes place. Let's go to the other situation, where there are two unmarried lovebirds looking at each other, smiling at each other, and then they feel closer to each other, bring their chairs nearer. Let's take another example, which we are all very familiar with. And that is, if a child cries, mother comes running from wherever she is. And she's the only one who knows whether the child has been bitten by a mosquito, or is wet, or is hungry. Now, there's a very close interaction of emotions between the two. If you go a little further, there is a singer who's singing on the stage, and he's singing very well, and the whole crowd moves in ecstasy along with him. Now, both singer as well as the audience are in contact, in sync with each other. And this is how emotions travel from one to the other. Now, we have been told by neuroscientists that there is an organ, amygdala, that is in the midbrain, which is responsible for this flight and fight and freeze responses and emotion, particularly to danger. I believe amygdala is also responsible for a number of other emotions. And it's also said that if amygdala gets injured or damaged, then we lose the capacity to understand the intentionality of the other person. Neuroscientists also tell us that one person, when talks to another person, forms a bridge, brain-to-brain contact. So when I talk to somebody, I am in connection with him. Now, if I send toxic material to the other person is going to return the same toxic material to me. But if I send positive vibrations, then again, the possibility is that that positive vibration will come back. And that is how we have seen that there are some kind of people who are almost always on the negative communications, and there are some people who are on the positive communications. It seems that their brain has been modified in such a way that they can stick around only to their mode of communication. Now let me shift over to another big issue, which is very close related to this passing of emotion from one person to another person. And there's the problems faced by people during this endemic. A person talks to the other person, either face to face, which now is open, you can talk to another person face to face, or on mobiles or on any other media. The moment you talk to the other person, the first thing that we talk about is COVID-19 or coronavirus. Oh God, see how it is reaching everywhere. See the incidents rising and see the number of deaths that are taking place. This all gets into a negative side, a little depressive side. And then they start talking about insecurities, and much worse is, I may be a victim of COVID tomorrow. That gives me jitters. And then I start visualizing myself going from my home to hospital, to mortuary, and to cremation rituals. And that makes me very, very sad and unhappy. And we also think of all those frontline workers who are working with these people. Look at the amount of money, resource, emotion, time a student spends on becoming a doctor. Or for that matter, even a nurse or a health worker or even a policeman, it takes so much of effort and money to develop them into functional people. And then they die an unfortunate death at the prime of their youth. It actually disturbs everybody because we see these frontline workers working every day, getting into difficulties, and so many of them are dying also. Now come to us, the general people who are not workers. We have been asked to maintain a social distance. In a country like India, where we live a very close, compact life, we have extended families, we keep meeting each other, we keep depending on each other, and I share my happinesses, my joys, and my unhappiness with my people known as my kin and kin. I have been asked to stay away at home and not interact with them. Though, of course, we are able to interact through mobile, but that is a very limited interaction. Another factor that we have been asked to follow is the fact that you are supposed to keep a lot of distance between anybody you meet, the man on the road, on the shop, or in an institution where you're working. It looks like you have been asked to treat the other person untouchable. You are not supposed to be anywhere near that person. Very difficult for Indians to digest. We are not used to this kind of life. Much worse is if you can't visit your own relative, brother, sister, child, mother, father, when he's sick, or either at his home or at his hospital, or much worse, you can't attend or you can't see when he is dying. And what? You can't see him, you can't touch him even after his death. We Indians are so much used to various kinds of rituals, and we have been asked not to perform any of these rituals, stay alone, be at home, caged. How lonely each one of us is feeling. Although it has opened up now, but everybody is not going out. Most of the people are still at home, feeling very lonely and alone. So therefore, government thought that we should remain safe, and they gave us some rules. Rules are like wear a mask, or use sanitizer, or wash your hands very often, or use all your vegetables, anything you get from the market, to soda water. Well, that was safe. We have also been told that you strengthen your immunity by eating healthy food, or by eating some specific kinds of foods, or go for yoga, or go for meditation, and thereby strengthen your immunity. We all listen to these rules. Some of us follow also. Some of us, under certain circumstances, are not able to follow. But despite that, the incidence is still rising. The deaths are still rising. So we start wondering, do we need extra intelligence to save ourselves from this pandemic? Now, when I talk of intelligence, I think of intelligence quotient, which is an ability to deal with everyday life situations. There are some researchers who are working on another concept that they have evolved, and we are all thinking on these lines, is emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence per se is an ability to handle my emotion, your emotion, and everybody's emotion. Now, let us try to figure out what exactly is emotional intelligence. This is an ability to sense, understand, and apply emotions in a positive fashion to all the emergencies that erupt every now and then. We should be able to handle not only our everyday life, but also the crisis when it comes. Now, my emotional intelligence makes me a good decision taker. I am able to evaluate, because of this intelligence, the whole situation, and I can take correct decision, and I can also manage myself, and I can manage my relationships also with empathy. So I should be able to handle myself and others all together to ensure that we don't feel lonely, alone, and thereby fall prey to this terrible COVID. Now, emotional intelligence also gives me flexibility and adjustability to be able to bring myself to the latest that is coming and adjust to the upheavals. Emotional intelligence also gives me an ability for reality testing. I should be able to make the difference between what am I experiencing and what is the actual truth. I'll tell you, most of the people who come to me do not have this reality testing tool in their hands. Whatever they perceive, they believe that is the reality. And that is where most of us get into problems. Now, we have this instrument in our hand called emotional intelligence. But even then, 2/3 of the humanity is not able to use it for solving their problems. We have to develop this skill. It is not only factual knowledge, but it is an intelligence which is used in most of the jobs that we perform every day. Therefore, it is very, very critical. And therefore, this is something we must cherish, develop, and use. Daniel Goleman has been a scientist who has worked extensively on emotional intelligence, and he has contributed so many concepts. And he's talked about our brain circuitry, which runs on two roads. Now, these two roads are known as a low road and a high road. Now, low road circuitry is beneath our awareness. That is to say, as soon as an insult comes, as soon as a difficulty comes, a problem, we jump over it. We are terribly angry, or we are very sulky, or we are in a very depressed mood. We immediately react to these impulses that we receive and react. We do it every day, but there's another road that Daniel Goleman has suggested, that's called high road. This is a road that again runs through neural system, but adopts dry, fully rational understanding of what is going on. So such a person evaluates a situation, understands the consequences, works out the problem and its solutions, and takes it in a calm way, and is able to meet whatever emergency comes. Now, therefore, if we have to fight this COVID, we might as well take to high road and not pursue the low road, because low road puts us into trouble. Now I'm going to talk in detail about this emotional intelligence. That is in terms of dimensions of emotional intelligence. There are a number of dimensions. The first dimension I would like to talk about is emotional awareness of self. How many of us are exactly aware of what emotion we are going through? Do we know when we are very angry? We know we are angry. Some people say, why are you getting angry? And I say, no, I'm not angry. Similarly, if I am jealous or if I'm going through any other emotion, most of the time I don't know. I don't have self-awareness. Now, emotional intelligence tells me that I have to be aware of my emotions, my values, my goals, and my decisions. I should know my strengths. I should know my weaknesses. And on basis of that, I will be able to take the right kind of decision. If I am able to appreciate myself, and I am able to appreciate my negatives and my positives, and still remain happy, I accept my negatives. And if I accept them, I can work on them, and I can learn from my experiences, and I can learn from other places also. If I am able to get this self-awareness, I will be able to deal with lots of problems. Now, if I have to deal with pandemic, then I must ask myself some questions and then get answers to it. That is to say, what is this virus? What exactly will it do? Supposing I contract this, what will happen to me? What are going to be the consequences of my getting this disorder? Or supposing I don't follow the rules, or I follow the rules, what impact will that have on me? I must become aware of all these questions. If I am, I will be called emotionally intelligent, and I will be aware of everything. And then it's very easy for me to find solutions to different problems. There is another aspect is called emotional expression. Now, all of us know what is emotional expression. The capacity of an individual to be able to exhibit my pains, my pleasures, my joys, my wishes, my desires, my deficits to myself and to others. If I am able to do this, I will be able to accept also my weaknesses, because I can, if I'm saying it, I know what I'm saying. If I am able to understand my own weaknesses, I will be able to find solutions. Now, what happens is half the population, or maybe more than half the population, doesn't express. They keep throwing things into their own tummy, where it boils and boils and creates so many mental and physical problems. Now, therefore, if we have to have a good health and if we have to fight diseases, then it's very important that we learn emotional expressions. We should be able to talk. There is no better tool than communication, where I reach the other person, or even I reach to myself and I'm able to express things openly. Now, another factor that I would like to pay attention is emotional awareness of other people. Now, this is a very difficult job, because as it is, I'm not very aware of my own emotions. I don't know when and how I become angry or I become jealous, how to interpret somebody else. But that is very important. I should be able to read, understand, and interpret another person's feelings. I should be able to see this world through somebody else's eyes. I can do that if I listen to people, if I don't shut them out, if I am attentive to their body language, the pain written on their face, or the pleasure written on their face, and on their bodies. If I am able to read that, I will be one with the other person, and I will be able to know his sufferings or his problems. And then, if I can express myself, I would love to have the other person expressing himself with me. Together, we will be able to solve so many problems that have come up. But that can happen only when I know the feelings of the other person. Most of the time, most of us do not realize. Now, another very important aspect of emotional intelligence, interpersonal connection. Now, we Indians are very good at it. We are very well connected to each other, positively or negatively, whatever, but we are connected. Now, this is important because when you are connected with somebody else, you are getting this soft and tender affection. You are also delivering that affection, and that's the positive side. People who cultivate relationships, cultivate networking, get benefited by the other person also, because it's a mutual beneficial process. These days, because we are not able to meet people, we are connected through audio and video means, and that is perhaps what is saving a lot of people. There are a lot of people who go to hospital and come back and recovered. I think they know that there is somebody else sitting at home and is positively connected there, and he is happy that there is somebody and he has strong connections, and that is very positive aspect of health. And if health is better, COVID can be difficult. Now, another very important aspect that I'm going to talk about is flexibility of an individual and adjustability. Now, Corona has come to stay. I don't know how long it's going to be there. So what do? We become flexible. We adjust to these masks and to all these washings and everything. Flexibility also means that you change yourself, adapt yourself to the unfamiliar and unpredictable situations which come along with the pandemic. Now, if I can modify myself, and though some of us are very flexible and very well adjusted, but some of us who are not, I suppose this will be an ability which we must develop for everyday situations, yes, but for this kind of critical emergency situation, we have to adapt, else we can get into it. Now I'm talking about difficulty, and therefore I would like to talk about the other side of emotional intelligence. Those people who are not able to handle their emotions in the right time or maybe at the right place end up having one or the other kind of either mental problem or physical problem. Now, the disorders that I'm going to talk about now could be biological. They would have biological basis. But when I'm talking about it as psychology, I'm talking about them as psychosomatic disorders. Now, in a biological disorder, if you develop, for example, hypertension or you develop ulcer, you'll go to the doctor, get treated, and you're okay. But then there is a lot of public which goes to the doctor, takes medicine, is okay, develops it again goes to the doctor, takes the medicine, etc. So the rituals do not end throughout their life. Now we believe that these people may not have a biological problem, but may have a psychological problem. These are the people who have perhaps not handled their emotions with emotional intelligence. Hypertension people, for example, feel endangered, threatened with harm, and they have to be ready every time and on guard for any insult that comes, any problem that comes, any issue that comes, their blood pressure shoots. And this is a perennial problem. Their hypertension keeps growing every now and then. Then they have to take medication, come down to now, again this would happen, like typical psychosomatic disorders. Now, ulcer is another psychosomatic disorder. Ulcerative person is a person who wants to touch the sky and he wants to reach everywhere and he wants to get everywhere, wants everything. To do that, he has to work very hard and he has to forgo breakfast and lunch and dinner because he has so many targets to reach and he's so very busy. Now, what happens that our body is systematic. At 1 o'clock is lunchtime, the bell rings in the stomach. So you have to put food into it and then acids will be released. If you don't put food there, acids get released and you become acidic. Now it happens every day and every day and every day, ulceration sets. So these people have to work to see, why am I trying to reach the sky? Why can't I be satisfied with what I have? Now, asthma is another disorder which lives lifelong with you, and it is breathing problems. So, the present COVID, you may not recover properly. Asthma usually people get in very early childhood. When a child feels alone, rejected, left in cold. Sometimes happen when mother is not there or etc. Now, if this person as an adult doesn't handle his asthma, he will keep getting these attacks over and over again. His loneliness, his aloofness is such a big partner to him. He will have to get out of this loneliness to treat his asthma. Else, it's there. Now go to migraine. Migraine is supposed to be a ladies' problem. Huh? There are many people, ladies who get it, but of course, the men also get it. Migraine people are very good people. They are very nice people. Socially very well accepted. Everybody likes them. Why? Because whenever people are in trouble, they run to this particular person and he goes out of his way, throws away his own prerogatives and comes to rescue of this particular person. And this fellow goes to everybody to help. He is so good. But when he needs help, none of these people come back to him. And he feels let down. Now, what is worse is this fellow A did not come to me when I needed him, when I had helped him so much. When again he wants help, I will again rush back to him to help him out and relieve him of his problems. And when I again need him, he'll again not come. So what happens? My migraine becomes my life partner. And I keep feeling alone, left out, miserable all the time. I keep repenting, but I am not able to change my lifestyle, and therefore migraine has to stay. Now let's go to eczema. This is very interesting. A person who has been frustrated by environment, who doesn't have anybody to look to, he's alone trying to solve all his problems, and sometimes is not able to reach everywhere and is not able to solve all the problems. Then he realizes that I am no good. I have not done this, I have not done that, and I am incapable. And who's to be blamed? I am to be blamed because I have been doing it. So therefore, if I have not achieved, then I have to be punished. Skin troubles erupt, and he is constantly punishing himself by scratching here or there. He runs to various kinds of doctors, but nobody is able to help. He can be helped only when he gets relieved of his guilt. He has to work for it, or maybe some other people can help him by getting relieved of his guilt. Now, these people who have comorbidities, whether it is a biological comorbidity or a psychosomatic comorbidity or any of the mental disorders, they become a little more difficult when it comes to recovery, because their recovery becomes a little slow since they have all other difficulties already in their system permanently settled. Today, when lockdown has been removed and all of us are free to roam around, there is a great worry. I may catch this virus any day. So what do I have to do? I have to follow all the rules that have been given, and I have to equip myself with my emotional intelligence. I should be able to deal with my emotions positively and successfully. Thereby, it is not the COVID. It is not any other disease that might come in next pandemic. It is how I deal with my emotions intelligently. Thank you. Would you like to ask any questions? Anybody wanting any ask question? So now there are no questions. I thank everybody for being here and listening to this tall claim of emotional intelligence. It was a pleasure talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I don't see anyone having any questions. Okay, so Ruju Parekh asks, ma'am, is pigmentation psychosomatic in nature?
Yes, pigmentation also is psychosomatic. Yes. It may be biological, I'm not denying that, but it would be psychosomatic also.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? You can please put it in the chat. Okay, Ruju Parekh asks, so what is the reason for the same?
I have already discussed that there are some people who are unable to resolve their emotions at the right time. And then they carry on with their emotions. And since they are not able to express their emotions, they take it out on themselves. Now, this is not a very pleasant sight, pigmentation, for example, all over the body or some part of the body. And I am thereby punishing myself for all the guilt that I am carrying, I have said in the last one. Why I do it and how I do it is a different story, but it is primarily to punish me for not having reached where I actually wanted to reach.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question. And Rupa, Umakant Dave, and Dr. Ritu Nanda say thank you for the session. It was a very insightful session.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, I think this is it. So
Okay.
thank you everybody, and have a nice day. Goodbye.